Guys, I know I haven't talked about it much, but a couple years ago, there was a candidate for senator, John Fetterman, who, despite his appearances, he kind of looked like your quintessential chud. He was a giant dude with a shaved head and like a raggedy goatee, if I remember correctly, or maybe just like the chin beard. He definitely did not come off as your average lefty by any means. He definitely didn't seem like the kind of guy that would be super progressive, but despite all of that, his messaging was quite progressive. He seemed like he could be the next Bernie. And the fact that he didn't look like a string bean lefty or whatever basically kind of helped to change the image of how people thought of progressive lefties within Washington. A lot of conservatives really hated him at the time and tried to attack him with very dishonest attacks about like his depression and his health to try to like shut him down because he was like such a threat to the conservative conception of a progressive existing in government. But then he had a heart attack, or was it a stroke? Something like that. I think it was a stroke. And after that stroke, some people think he just went crazy out of nowhere. I don't necessarily think that's true. I think more likely than not, coinciding with that stroke, he was offered a lot of money by a lot of PACs and super PACs, a lot of money he was offered to support certain things. It's very common. There's a lot of money. Money in politics is one of the biggest problems in politics, especially in America. And so he's basically followed in the footsteps of Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin, and over the last year become known as like one of the conservative Democrats. There's a very small handful of Democrats, like actual Democrat politicians, who are just awful, practically conservatives, you know? And he has become one of them. But it's gotten even worse. Apparently recently he tweeted this. He's very pro-Israel and extremely against Palestine. Like, not just he doesn't like Hamas at all and he's like, you know, pro-Israel existing. No. He thinks all Palestinians are Hamas and like cheers for Israel to continue bombing. Like, he is a loud and proud, like, bomb them all type, like, Zionist. Just out of nowhere, like overnight. Anyway, he's getting a lot of shit for this tweet. He posted a screen cap from Politico that said two of the main organizers behind protests at Columbia University and on other campuses are Jewish Voice for Peace and If Not Now. Both are supported by the Tides Foundation, which is seeded by Democratic mega donor George Soros, as well as the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And it goes on, right? So basically, these are progressive organizations that do outreach that have been donated to by rich people, either for virtue signaling or taxes. In the case of George Soros, he is pretty progressive, so it wouldn't surprise me if it was like a genuine donation of support. So because literally claiming that it was Soros-funded protests, which is JQ propaganda, by the way, it is hilarious when like Zionists, pro-Israel types, in order to defend Israel, have to engage in anti-Semitism. They, like, if a Jewish person criticizes Israel, they have to go on a long rant about how that person's a bad fake Jew. And it's like, man, you just sound like Hitler, bro. Anyway, this guy quote tweeted him saying, George Soros is responsible for the protests. You guys messed up. He's not Scoop Jackson. He's Tulsi Gabbard in sweatpants. In about 4 years, he's going to be announcing he's switching parties during a guest spot on Tucker Carlson. True. You know who I feel like Fetterman reminds me of? Hassan. I don't know why. They just feel like they've got similar vibes. Anyway, this person said Fetterman has gone full anti-Semite now by blaming George Soros for campus protests. So yeah, people are definitely not happy about Fetterman lately. But I have a story involving him that honestly seems even worse. Like, of all the horrible shit he's done, this genuinely feels like one of the most evil. Are you guys familiar with the discussion around lab-grown meat? Now, ever since I became aware of lab-grown meat, I have supported it. I love animals. I love animals. I think they're adorable. I think they're cute. I hate when animals die. I hate killing animals. It's like the worst fucking thing ever. When animals die in media or in real life, I'm more sad than when humans die, frankly. I hate when animals die. And I hate when they have to die for food. And I hate that they taste so fucking good. I hate that cows, those sweet little creatures, they're so goddamn cute and sweet, cows are. I hate that they taste so fucking good. Pigs, adorable little creatures. Well, little creatures. I hate that their fat and their stomachs taste so good. I hate how good bacon is. However, lab-grown meat is kind of the foil to all this, right? If you don't want to support the slaughter of animals, and it's not just the slaughter, but the horrible mistreatment up till that point of these animals, done en masse, in ways that, like, it's so bad that if I showed you a GIF of, like, the baby chick, like the chicken macerator. You guys know about the chick macerator? Hypers in chat if you don't know about the chick macerator. It's real. All the male chicks are useless to many factory farms because they want hens to lay eggs and they also have the best breast meat. So tens of thousands of male baby chicks freshly hatched per day sent down a conveyor belt straight into a giant macerator in order to be turned alive. They're alive, cheeping and walking around and looking around, experiencing the world for like the first 5 minutes of their lives, and then they fall straight into a big macerator. And that's just one of the horrific things that they do in this industry. It's horrific. It's truly horrific. And if you watch this shit, you will be brought to tears, your stomach will be made sick, and yet you will still buy a burger the next day when your mind has pushed it away because we have become so accustomed to forgetting the horror behind the things that we consume. We do it with our clothing and the child labor, child slavery, and human rights violations that come from the mining of parts for our computers and the making of our clothes, the creation of our food. We push it in the backs of our minds because we want to continue enjoying life. And it's pretty fucked up. And lab-grown meat was one of these things that I felt acted as kind of a foil to this awful situation. We could stop hurting animals and take no negative impact. We can still continue to eat meat, and no animals have to be hurt for it. So conservatives, of which have long been paid by, like, the farming industry. You know, McDonald's, for example, doesn't want to have to give up or have all that land they bought and have, like, shredded forests down to keep cows on and chickens and stuff. They don't want that to just be a waste of money because lab-grown meat becomes the meta. There are a lot of people that are currently lobbying to stop lab-grown meat because they have so much money in the farming industry and in meat production. And so apparently those same people are also paying Fetterman and many other Republicans because right now there's a genuine debate as to whether or not lab-grown meat should be legal. They have made claims about how it's cancerous or it causes cancer and it's unsafe. I find that highly unlikely, as the FDA wouldn't really approve that kind of thing if it was. Red states are trying to ban not just the selling of lab-grown meat, but the research of lab-grown meat. So even if it is dangerous, you're not allowed to research it and find a way to make it safe, because the goal is not to protect people. The goal is to protect the people making lots and lots and lots and lots of money off the torture of animals. So let's hear what's going on with all this. Cultivated meat company and Florida farmer debate lab-grown meat across the U.S.
All right, we're back now with a growing new debate. Now, this may look like your average chicken fillet, but it's actually cell-cultivated meat, an emerging technique where meat is developed in a mail container just like this from a sample of animal cells and does not...
Dog, imagine how awesome it'll be if this takes and you never have to worry about biting into a strip of meat and biting into a bone or cartilage or sinew or like a really gross glob of like thick fat ever again. Like imagine you bite into like a steak, or you like take a piece of a steak and it's all the good meat. Like there's no sinew or fat or connective tissue or none of that shit you cut around or can't chew and swallow. It's every bit of it is fully edible and as good as any other bite. Because it's lab grown to be the perfect, like cartoonishly perfect steak. That is my dream for this. Like, you know those perfect cartoon steaks you'd see in like Tom and Jerry as a kid or whatever, and you'd be like, fuck, I want to eat like one of those, you know? Those would be real.
Require killing animals. Proponents of the method say it's an ethical and sustainable protein option for generations to come. They also argue there are geopolitical...
The reason why the right is also trying to ban this is because the eating bugs thing as an alternative, for example, is itself doesn't really need much to argue against, right? How often do you hear conservatives simply say, the left wants you to eat bugs? Well, now they've got to find a way to make something that actually seems really good to the vast majority of people seem bad. So how do you make not slaughtering animals and we sacrifice nothing and still get good meat? How do we make that a bad thing? Well, let's lie and say it gives you cancer or that it literally is cancer. That's what they say. Fetterman actually tweeted this word for word. Lab-grown meat is literally lab-grown cancer. That you were eating tumors. Fucking insane.
Political incentives to invest in the technology as the U.S.
By the way, if you're wondering why ethically they're against it, if they have any moral or ethical qualms with it, this is stem cell technology. If you know what the politics are around stem cell research, you know. This comes from stem cell technology.
Its main competition in this space right now is China, which is ramping up efforts to improve their cultivated meat industry. But Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is saying he's against lab-grown meat, and Florida should be as well. Take a listen.
I know the legislature is doing a bill to try to protect our meat. You need meat, okay? And we're going to have meat in Florida. Like, we're not going to, we're going to...
Do you guys know why he's, like, stumbling over his words right now to make it sound good that he's banning the research into lab-grown meat? He needs his meat. Yeah, he's the meat man. He is the meat man. They called him the meat man in college, dude. They called him the meat man in college. Because he could take so much meat. Like, he could take meat into every orifice. He'd get filled up with meat. He'd be bloated and inflated with meat every night in college. That's how he got that nickname. Anyway, yeah, it's where Meatball Ron comes from. He got inflated into a big ball, just getting so full of meat. Just getting all fucking stuffed with all that meat. Every orifice. Anyway, I'm going to hell. Anyway, no, if you've been to Florida before, or you lived in Florida like I did, you'd know that driving down any rural area in Florida, it is miles and miles and miles and miles and miles and miles and miles of farmland. It is so much farmland. You'll be driving down a road, and on either side, there is a barbed wire fence. There's a ditch, and then a barbed wire fence. And on the other side, there's either a bunch of fucking cows or a bunch of horses. And there'll be like a few lakes, like man-dug lakes that are just filled with like rainwater because it rains all the time in Florida. And you'll see like the occasional enormous oak tree that was too big to tear down in the middle of the field. And that's like where the cows and horses get shade on a hot day when it's too sunny. Just miles of that shit. There is so much of Florida is farmland. The idea of that farmland no longer being profitable because lab-grown meat catches on, terrifying for a Republican who wants to make Florida an economic hub, right? It's a big reason why Florida, and it's like hard Republican lean, is the fact that they have been a tax haven for a long time. Taxes are super low in Florida, and so if you know a rich person, chances are they have a Florida house for two reasons. They have a Florida house for vacationing in, but they also have a Florida house that house or a Florida house is one they legally live in like half of the year so that they're considered a resident of Florida and they don't have to pay state taxes. So tons of rich people, and they do this with Texas too, tons of rich people buy cheap property in Florida and Texas. Property is really cheap there, lots of empty land. They buy property, they build, they technically are a resident of Florida, and they pay like no state taxes, even if they spend most of their time actually in another state, in another house. And so Florida is just this massive, like, magnet pull for rich conservatives who want to, like, cut taxes and fuck over poor people.
Do have fake meat. Like, that doesn't work. So we're going to make sure to do it right.
And Florida Senate passed a...
What is fake meat? What is fake meat? It's literally the same thing. It just wasn't carved from a thing that was alive 5 minutes ago. No one had to die to produce it. Pro-life conservatives arguing that any sustenance gained through something that is not through death is immoral. Can meat really be fake? If it was like a veggie burger, you could say it's fake meat, quote unquote, because it's literally not meat. But this is literally lab-grown meat. They grew the meat cells into a big hunk of meat in a lab. They replicated the cells using science, non-lethally, to generate more meat. There is no downside to this, assuming it is safe. And I've yet to see any evidence it's unsafe. I'm curious if we'll see some actual evidence that it's not safe in this news broadcast.
Bill last month banning and criminalizing the sale of lab-grown meat.
Not just banning, criminalizing the sale. I bet they're going to criminalize the research into it next. Reminder, they literally criminalizing. Fucking satanic. Actually satanic.
Governor DeSantis still yet to sign the bill into law, but the move comes as similar efforts to ban the product have been made in other states, including Alabama, Arizona, and Tennessee. For more,
all hard right states that when you drive through them, it is miles and miles and miles of ranches. I wonder if there's a monetary incentive here. I wonder if money in politics is fucking over human progress once again.
more on this growing debate, I'm joined tonight by Tom Rossmeisel. He's the head of global marketing at Good Meat, one of just 2 cultivated meat companies in the U.S. that have been approved by the FDA to sell their products, and Representative Dean Black, who is a Republican member.
Okay, approved by the FDA. So yeah, no, it's literally completely safe. It's been sold, and this is just banning and criminalizing its sale to protect monetary interests. Like, overtly. Like, it's already FDA approved and being sold. They just criminalized its sale to ban it in states, like banning anything, like banning TikTok, like or something. You know, they just banned it because people were liking it, and it was hurting the meat industry in the state, just overtly. How SJW of them.
Of Florida's state legislature, but, and an important but here, he's also a cattle rancher. We thank you both for joining Top Story tonight. I'm looking forward to a spirited debate. Tom, I'm going to play a video for our viewers.
Man, the expert on the topic that's going to talk, versus a cattle rancher. The people who are against this are cattle ranchers? Who could have thought? The people who have a monetary interest in continuing to slaughter more animals for meat? They're the ones who are against this, pretty much solely? Interesting.
Now that our great director is going to roll, and we're going to walk our viewers through what we're looking here. So the meat's built or assembled, I guess, in these metal containers, and then it comes out and it looks just like a fillet, right? I mean, if I were to buy that at the grocery store, I wouldn't know the difference. And after it's cooked, look, it looks like a chicken fillet. My question to you is, what does it taste like?
It tastes like chicken. I mean, it's real meat. It fries in a pan like meat. It smells like meat. It looks like meat. It's meat. If you're allergic to chicken, you'll be allergic to our chicken. The nutritionals are...
It's literally the same. That is a really good line. I like that a lot. That is a good way of emphasizing it is real meat. If you are allergic to chicken, you will be allergic to lab-grown chicken because it's literally the same. Molecularly, it is the same. It honestly might just be healthier. When you consider the fact this probably isn't pumped full of hormones, like growth hormone, like our animals are. It's probably not like eating like shit feed because there's no animal here. It's literally just the pure muscle cells being grown in a lab with no outside contaminants, toxins, or like additives. This might be some of the healthiest meat you could consume, actually. Hell, you don't even have to worry about how lean or fat the animal was, contributing to like how many calories the meat is. You've got consistency in calories. So like you buy a lab-grown chicken fillet, you know it's always the exact same amount of calories every time if you're a calorie counter like me. There's literally no downsides. There's none, except some rich people might make less money. Some rich people that aren't us or anyone we know will make less money.
It's identical. And the process starts, like you said, by taking a sample of cells from an animal, putting it into a bioreactor, which looks like a large beer brewery, as you showed there. And you let them cells multiply. You feed the cells Very similar to what an animal would feed its own cells. So water, amino acids, lipids, vitamins, fats, things like that.
And
essentially, in our body, we have constant, they have created what is called a bioreactor. Funnily enough, it's wild how much Minecraft mods have gotten the development of lab-grown meat accurate, if you know what I'm talking about. There are mods that have, made this a thing. But the bioreactor is really just a man-made human body. The human body is a machine that takes in food and water, converts it into energy through digestion, and those things we pull from our digestion, water and all the proteins and acids and amino whatevers that we pull out of our food, are then used in a chemical reaction. Our body is evolved over billions of years, over different species, well before we became humans, anatomically modern humans, has evolved to generate muscle and tissue out of that energy, out of the things we pull from our food. And that takes a whole body to make that chemical reaction happen, to turn food and the energy we pull from the food. And they're just putting in raw what we digest out of food. They're just putting that in raw to generate tissue and muscles. We grow up. That's part of it. We grow muscles from getting buff, working out. That's part of it. They make that happen in a man-made machine. It's awesome. It's objectively fascinating and awesome.
Representative Black, I want to ask you, you're a rancher, as we mentioned. Obviously, lab-grown meat, not great for your bottom line. But in America, competition is what makes our products and businesses so strong. So what's your beef with this new beef?
Yeah, explain to me why in America it's all about competition, and competition's what makes capitalism so great. Why is it okay that politicians are criminalizing the sale of the thing that you are competing against? Why are politicians assisting you in a legally enforced monopoly to destroy competition?
Well, it's unclear to me that that would have any impact whatsoever on our bottom line, because I don't think there's much of a market for it. But
oh, man. Really? That's the route he's going to take? There's no way that lab-grown meat would have an effect on our bottom line because no one likes it anyway. The copium, the immediate goalpost moving, because he has to defend the banning and criminalization of lab-grown meat that's already FDA approved. It's completely safe. People like it. And it's just to protect his bottom line. He has to, he's going to just be lying the whole time. We're going to watch a guy desperately lie to defend his bottom line. Representative Dean Black of Florida, who is a rancher, a cattle rancher. Literally, the politicians in Florida themselves are ranchers whose money is in slaughtering cattle. Which, to be fair, the vast majority of Florida politicians probably are ranchers. Yeah, that makes sense to me. A lot of the wealthy people who could afford to run a campaign for local election in Florida makes sense. They'd be ranchers. They make a shitload of money. They're some of the wealthiest people living out there in big fucking houses out there in the country with lots of land.
the operative word in what the gentleman just said was that it's very nearly chicken. It's very similar to chicken. It's almost identical.
No, they didn't say that. It smells like chicken. It tastes like chicken. It is chicken. It is meat. If you are allergic to chicken, you'll be allergic to this because it is chicken. What is this attempt to pick apart what he said? He literally emphasized over and over again that it is literally, molecularly, identically chicken. It's just made in a lab.
And it's the almost that gets you there because it's not identical. There are certain micronutrients that exist in real meat that we know are important to human nutrition. And although
I've actually researched this, do you know what micronutrients they're referencing? Human growth hormone. Or not human growth hormone, growth hormone. A lot of the meat provided by cattle ranchers, and especially chicken farmers, lots of growth hormone. It's in their food. They put it in the water, and they feed it to. They put it in the formula for the cows when they feed them milk, like the calves. Calves, I think is how it's pronounced. Always had trouble pronouncing that word. A lot of these quote unquote necessary nutrients are literally just things put in there by farmers to increase yield and growth amount in their animals, so they can slaughter them younger and increase their and like lower the amount of time they have to keep an animal alive before shipping it out as meat.
So the FDA has said that this type of product is safe. That doesn't mean it's healthy. And in Florida, we don't want our citizens used as guinea pigs. We think research and development is fine, but we think a lot of that needs to be done before we say this is going.
You banned it. You literally banned it and are moving to criminalize the testing and research on lab-grown meat. The FDA approving it means it's safe. It is safe. If you have such a big problem with food not being safe, wait, these are literally the people who have fought against trying to replace lead pipes and lead paint across the state. Like, why do Republicans? Do you think I'm stupid? Do you think I don't remember that you are solely against any attempts whatsoever to spend money on making Americans' lives healthier? Like, these people spent and still do spend like a decade shitting on Michelle Obama because she wanted to make kids eat healthier. You know, like, these people don't give a fuck about whether or not Americans have a healthy diet. They don't give a fuck.
Going to replace an integral part of the human diet.
Tom, what do you say to that? What's your response?
Yeah, I mean, we spent 3+ years working with the USDA and FDA to ensure that our meat is safe. We went through that process. We shared safety dossiers. We had a back and forth between regulators. We worked through a framework started by the Trump administration with the USDA and FDA to get our product into market. We went through all of that.
I like that he brought that up. No one could say this is some like Biden approved thing. Trump's administration approved this. So it's not like politically biased. It's approval.
To ensure that it's safe and healthy for consumers. The Florida legislature started this process. The number of questions we received from the Florida legislature is 0. So we didn't hear from them once about clarifying questions about how we make our product or what's in it. Because ultimately this isn't about safety. This is a culture war. This is politics.
Yep, he's completely right. I love it. I love that this guy is just immediately cutting to it. This guy's debating how I like people to debate, just immediately cutting through all the bullshit and goalpost moving and just being meta with it. Like, no, this is a culture war issue. You guys are just trying to drum up hate for it, and you're trying to justify cracking down legally on something that is bad for your bottom line. It's all about money, and you're trying to trick people into supporting it.
And it's unfortunate for Florida.
What culture and politics would be at play here?
I mean, you should ask Representative Black. There are no credible safety concerns coming from the legislature about this. So, you know, if politicians want to say, hey, we don't like this meat, that may play well with some consumers. But, you know, ultimately, consumers should decide what meat they want to buy or not buy.
And then, Tom, is this, does the country need this right now? And would your meat be more affordable? I mean, give me the top 3 reasons why America needs this right now.
I'm pretty certain right now lab-grown meat is more expensive. If not, maybe I should switch over to it already.
Question. Yeah, so the number one reason is environmental. So we're growing just the meat that is...
Yeah, for those who don't know, I know it sounds like a crazy conservative meme or whatever, and they have claimed this before to try to claim man-made climate change isn't real, despite this being part of man-made climate change, funnily enough. But cow farts and burps make up a substantial amount of greenhouse gas emissions in our atmosphere. And that sounds crazy. It's not because cows fart and burp so much. It's just we have so many fucking cows. Cows are greenhouse gas producers. They have a constant fermentation process happening in their guts that produces an insane amount of gas. And they burp and they fart all the time. And we have tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of them out there in the fields. Because think about how many Americans there are. Hundreds of millions of Americans. Think about how many steaks how much beef the average American eats a week. And think about how many cows there needs to be at any given time in America to be slaughtered, or just alive at any given time to supply that. Now imagine that on a world scale, too. Cows put out an insane amount of farts. Now, this doesn't mean we need to slaughter all the cows or anything. It means that mass producing them for the sake of slaughter, not good for the environment. nor is it good for the countless cows that get to live for like, I don't know, what, a year and a half of like a happy life before they're put to slaughter. Maybe a happy life, usually not, actually. Cows get a little better, usually. At least when I can tell, in Florida, most ranchers have their cows free grazing on the grass, which is, you know, not too bad. That's actually a pretty decent way to raise them, but they're still just going to be killed, you know? Unless they're just being used for milk, but that's quite rare.
Consumed by a consumer. We're not growing a beak or an intestine or fur or tendons or anything like that. So we have the ability to grow meat much more efficiently than the conventional way. And that's going to...
This is true as well. An animal's body has to dedicate food, because it's taking in hundreds and hundreds of dollars of food over its lifetime, has to eat that, convert it to energy, and then distribute that energy to brain function, bodily functions, or organ function, a bunch of different things, and then some of it goes to waste because the digestion is not fully perfect, especially depending on the animals. Some animals barely digest their food. It like just goes right out of them looking the same it went in. And so that's a super inefficient cost, right? Like the energy you're putting into that animal to get food out of it, like more energy out of it, is super inefficient. With this, every bit of energy you're putting into it is going into a like man-made reaction made to make just the meat you want to eat. It's just better in every way. It's literally... Hold on. It's literally stem cells all over again. It really is technically just an extension of this issue, to be honest. The right are literally just pro-bad things, anti-good things. They just don't like good things. It's just this. He had a stroke.
How long was I in there?
About 5 minutes.
Why are we not funding this?
Fantastic fucking clip. Just an amazing clip. It just gets across my entire feeling on this issue.
To be really important. I mean, the protein requirements of the planet are going to double between now and 2050. So adding another tool to be able to sustainably make protein is going to be really important. It's not going to replace conventional meat. We're not advocating for that. Certainly that's not being expected from the Florida legislature. But consumers should decide. They should be able to go to a grocery store and determine.
He's really good at debating, this guy, by the way. He's really good at playing. Like, not only is he arguing he's on the popular opinion side, I would think, even among Floridians, but he's also doing a good job of appealing to people's sense of liberty and freedom. The idea that the state has decided they're not allowed to choose what kind of meat they want. Hell, they're not even allowed to try lab-grown meat if they want to, because the state seemingly has a monetary incentive not to. The guy they brought on, the representative they brought on, one of the people responsible for the law, is a cattle rancher, you know? I've never seen a more obvious case, and he's doing a good job of pointing it out, of like, man, they're really just fucking you. The government's really just fucking you in Florida for their own benefit. Like, the actual people sitting in government are making money off of this law.
What type of safe and approved meat they want.
Blatant corruption.
Right now, is it cheaper or more expensive than regular meat?
Yeah, right now it's more expensive. We've got a lot of steps in order to scale our technology. It's going to take a lot of time to get there.
And that's the funny thing. They went ahead and banned it while it was just as it's a new thing, and it's still more expensive than normal meat, so people aren't going to that as their primary thing just yet. So that's not popular enough that it would be met with immediate backlash when banned. They were very strategic about immediately banning it before people it caught on in Florida. You know what I mean?
But that's true of all new industries.
Yeah.
When cars came out, they're very expensive. Cell phones, electric vehicles, you name it. There's always a process when you're scaling up a new technology.
Representative Dean, Black, I should say, I'm trying to understand what your biggest problem with this is, right? Because I know as a rancher, you obviously have a certain amount of cattle. You also have a certain amount of land. And turning over that grass and turning over everything else they eat, that's got to be difficult and costly all across this country. What's your biggest problem with this right now?
If these guys were, like, if capitalism worked the way it was supposed to, by the way, like, if capitalism was working the ideal way, the idealist way, this guy, upon seeing the developments in lab-grown meat, would recognize this as a new opportunity for innovation and business. He would sell his land, sell his cattle, and he would use buy some new land and build factories, hire researchers, and use that as an investment to get into lab-grown meat and start pushing heavy for R&D on how to revolutionize production of lab-grown meat, make it cheaper than this company can, and then outbid this guy in the market. If capitalism was working properly, that is exactly what would happen. This guy wouldn't just become a politician and ban his competition. He would actually compete in the market. That is the ideal way that capitalism would work. But in our system, money in politics doesn't allow capitalism to work as it ideally would.
So I will say this. My concern really is not around protecting the industry. I have two broad concerns. One is safety, and I'd like to correct a misstatement made earlier.
Oh my God, he's so desperate to try to make it so. He keeps on saying, like, once again, the FDA has deemed it completely safe. It's just a matter. He's so desperate to move the goalpost away from a conversation about his income. He does not like the constant reminders of him being a cattle rancher. I think he was really hoping that info wouldn't even come up. Like, I'm pretty certain this guy got blindsided by the, reporter, the moderator, mentioning that he's a cattle farmer, too. And he's, spent every word he said in this debate has been an effort to try and distract people from the fact he's one of the people responsible for banning lab-grown meat is a cattle rancher. At least one. At least one.
Earlier, that was that the FDA had proven that it was safe and healthy. The FDA doesn't actually certify something as healthy. They will tell you that fried ice cream dipped in chocolate is safe. It's not necessarily.
Okay. The FDA will tell you if something is dangerous or unfit for human consumption. The FDA also has requirements about nutrition facts. If you look on any thing you can buy in America that is a food product, FDA approved, you will see an ingredients list on the back with nutritional facts. It'll tell you how many calories that thing is, how much of your daily servings of protein you have, assuming you are average BMI, average height, average weight person, average metabolism person. How many grams of protein it has, how many grams of sugar, how many grams of fat, carbs, everything. I know this because I track my calories. Hell, the FDA also requires this. What else do we have here? I assume this lotion I have here for my face is FDA approved. Let's see. Where's the stamp? Boop, 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 boop. I guess it's not edible, so it wouldn't be FDA approved because it's not edible. But I figured it goes on your skin. Maybe they'd have to approve it. Regardless, though, we have similar laws here, where all of the ingredients of this lotion on the back of the fucking thing. Water, glycerin, petrolatum, ether. These get harder to pronounce the further you go. But yeah, we have laws here. They require you to have nutritional facts, and they require you to have ingredients. So if people aren't tracking their own nutrients, that's their own problem. People shouldn't have to rely on enriched food in order to get a proper diet. Also, nobody is getting a properly nutritious diet from eating nothing but beef, okay? Nobody. You can't just eat this guy's beef and be healthy. I like how you can see the evil grin on this guy's face. This guy does a very bad job of hiding the fact he is a money-obsessed ghoul who's just doing this to preserve his income.
Really healthy, though, if you make that a regular part of your diet. And that's where my concern comes in, because we have micronutrients that are part of natural beef.
Name one. I really wish this guy asked him to name one. Name one micronutrient that is part of natural beef that isn't part of lab-grown beef that's needed for survival. That's bad that it's not there.
They come from the plants that the animals eat. And these are nutrients that we're still discovering. The field of human.
There it is. There it is. They don't have any. They don't have any. Whenever pushed on this, they're going to say, well, there's still more research. We haven't discovered actually how good natural meat is for you. So so we don't even know how much better it is for you. They're nanonutrients, exactly.
Human nutrition is still an ongoing field of study, and we don't even know what all of these nutrients are.
God, I wish I could argue with this guy and respond, hey, did you know that sex and gender is also an ongoing field of study? And see how he responds to that.
And it's therefore impossible for them to be replicated in vitro meat like this. We haven't studied.
This guy just, they're literally anyone who would claim it is impossible to do blank thing in science has just revealed how much shit they're pulling out of their ass and hoping you'll believe.
What it would do to pregnant mothers. And I could just go on and on and on. There is a lot of research and development still to be done.
That is actually hilarious. You're worried about what lab-grown meat could do to pregnant mothers? Yeah. There's never been any big scandals about factory farming and the growth hormone used and the different chemicals used and what they've done to pregnant women and their babies. No big scandals about that at all. Really? Well, I wonder where he got that from. I wonder where he pulled that example from, because that example is literally what happened with the meat industry. Over and over and over and over and over again. They pump the animals full of growth hormone and other shit, and it's not good for you, and it's really not good for, like, pregnant women and stuff, you know? Developing, like, kids and stuff. Yeah. I like how he literally had to pull a downside from his own industry and make it up and ascribe it, project it onto lab-grown meat. Amazing.
And I'll agree that in order for it to be competitive, it would have to be scaled up. And if you scale this up,
it would also have to be legal.
That brings up my second objection, which pertains to China. Look,
China?
Communist China and communist...
No fucking way did this guy get onto communist China. That's what we're talking. Really, we've gotten to the point of communist China on the topic of lab-grown meat. Really, so is the meat communist, or is lab-grown meat going to, like, destroy jobs and make China more powerful than America? Place your bets, chat.
Countries have a history of collectivizing agriculture and food production, and they use that to control their populations.
What the fuck does lab-grown meat have to do with collectivizing agriculture? If anything, the monopolizing of the meat industry is closer to collectivizing agriculture than allowing for competition. This guy's just making up shit about he just wanted to bring up communist China to fearmonger to his base, I guess. He was like, fuck, I'm losing this debate. I gotta talk about communist China. Fuck. Communist China, 9/11, Israel is good, Hamas is bad, 9/11, China. Okay, my base likes me again. They think I did well there. We're safe. I'll get reelected again.
And for this to make sense, it will have to be concentrated in large factories. And look, we are in a very tense geopolitical time with China, North Korea, Iran. And if you concentrate your protein production in a...
Oh my God, he's going to try to argue that it will allow for countries to nuke or bomb our food production. You know what's hilarious about this? You know what's absolutely fucking hilarious about this, guys? All of our food goes through factories. All of our food has to go through factories and facilities that look very similar to these factories and facilities where lab-grown meat is made before they are mass spread out and sold. You guys know that, right? Like, all meat, vegetables, fruit, all of it. No matter, even if it's naturally grown, it's put through a factory. It's sanitized, it's packaged, it's like cleaned and sorted. Sometimes they use it as ingredients in other things in a factory. So already these countries could nuke or bomb our factories and destroy our food production. That's already a thing right now. That would destroy... There's no difference. This guy is making up fairy tales to justify criminalizing the sale of something that competes with his bottom line as a cattle rancher who is a Republican representative of Florida.
A few major factories, you're a few missile strikes from an instant famine right now in our agricultural production.
That is literally right now. That is the case for us. Right now, that is the case.
System. Our protein production is dispersed all across the country. It's impossible.
That is in no way true. If like the Atlanta airport was wiped, like just blinked out of existence, and if like a few main like trucking headquarters were blinked out of existence, like a total of 5 buildings could be blinked out of existence, and our distribution and sale of meat and produce would disappear, and there would be nationwide famine. It would be catastrophic. Not to mention, there might be some global famine, considering we're the #1 wheat exporter in the world, maybe the #1 corn exporter. I think, there would be a collapse of other food commodities globally if just a few companies that are responsible for shipping and distribution of meat and produce went belly up overnight. If like one core airport disappeared, got Thanos snapped overnight, the Atlanta airport, it would be gone. It would be done. It would be fucked. America would be screwed. So much of our trade is reliant on like a few buildings.
Possible to take it all out. In fact, we've been the breadbasket of the earth during world wars. We helped to feed not only ourselves, but our allies in wartime. I think we need to slow down. 3.5 years of research.
I like how he hasn't been able to keep away his like wealthy Southern twang. Like, we need to slow down, do more research, criminalize the sale of this FDA-approved thing that is hurting my money, my bottom line. I saw that my income in this quarter was made worse as lab-grown meat was sold in Florida, and I immediately got behind this bill to ban it, and now I'm on TV, and I am fumbling to try and explain how this is not corruption in politics.
Is not nearly enough time to decide that we're going to take 6,000 years of agricultural history and throw it in the wastebasket. We have health concerns, and there are real national security concerns that ought to be thought about.
Tom, real quick, as we run out of time, I'll give you the last word here.
Yeah, look, I mean, the USDA is equipped to answer these questions. The Florida legislature is not equipped to analyze the safety of every food product that enters our system. That's why we have the USDA.
Which is to say that they did not analyze that, and your job in doing research and development is to do that. They did analyze
the safety of it 3+ years, and we never received.
No, he just said the state of Florida does not have the resources to investigate every food product, and that is why the USDA and the FDA exist, and they investigated it. And he just interrupted him to say, well, that's why you guys didn't investigate it. He's like, no, the FDA and the USDA did do it. That not the state of Florida, you guys. Do you see how much he's like shitting himself on air right now, this guy? He's shitting himself.
Any questions from the Florida legislature? And then on national security, because I want to answer your other question. On national security, it is a really important thing. China has this in their plan. They are actively developing this because they know we need more sources of protein. We're not looking to replace conventional meat production, but having another tool to address rising demand for protein is a good thing for a country. It increases our food security as a country.
Tom Rice-Meisel, Representative Dean Black from Florida, we thank you both.
So, believe it or not, Fetterman is on board with these cattle farmers. And if you look at the replies, I'm curious to see what the general view is here. Clearly, farmers are terrified of this produce because they know it threatens their long-term prospects of agriculture. Good comment. When I hear safe and effective, it's suspect. Oh yeah, here's an anti-vaxxer. I'm not eating that. If it tastes like real meat, and as long as it's not disgusting or weird tasting, then it's fine. Why would anyone oppose it? It's great. It sounds like a great alternative. I appreciate you guys showing both points of view. Good segment. I like how there are two opposing views from good guests. Jesus, so many centrists. And I also remember Tab, the cola that came from a disclaimer on how it may cause cancer and has in mice and other lab mammals. Nothing like that is like, what? Where? Okay, someone has made up something to fit their worldview. Cool. No fake meat here. They oppose this if it is safe and leads to cheaper food production. I'm just worried about how safe it is to consume long term. What are the known health impacts yet to be tested liking long term? Conserving resources and decreasing how much we slaughter animals would be a game changer for animal welfare, but I'm also concerned about safety for consumers as well. I remember, people fall for it, dude. People actually fall for it. They're having their freedoms taken from them, and it's being criminalized despite being deemed fully safe by the USDA and the FDA for political reasons and monetary reasons. And the bullshit goalposting. This shit works. People fall for the virtue signaling of conservatives. I want you to know. You see this grinning ghoul here? He worked. He got his point across. The people he wanted to convince that this was justified fell for it. His messaging worked. And that's why he's smiling. He knows that his messaging worked. God. You know, Fetterman's among these people. Anyway, if you enjoyed this segment, I'm really curious to hear what you guys think about this situation. Go ahead and comment down below. I'm excited to read these comments because this is a whole thing that gets me real riled up, and I have strong opinions on it. I hope you guys too, so I'm curious to hear what you guys think. It also boosts the channel when you guys comment, so I really appreciate when you guys do that. If you want to support me, you can also drop a like or a thumbs up. It really boosts the channel and the algorithm a lot, forcing YouTube to push me out to new people, so thank you. And if you want to follow my social medias to see more from me, you can do so. They're linked down below in the description. And of course, if you want to support me financially, you can always do so by donating, subscribing, or gifting a sub on my website, or supporting me financially through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, Patreon, or buying merch through the Streamlabs links all down below. And of course, if you want to join my fan Discord, it's totally free. It's the main hub of my community and everything. And of course, I do watch parties, call-in streams, game events, and I announce all my uploads and streams there. So make sure you join that. I hope to see you there, and I hope you enjoyed.